No one talks about the kind of love that begins with an accident, or the kind of debt that money can never repay. When billionaire Vincent Castellano's car collided with Anaya Richardson on a rain-soaked New York street, it should have been the end of a terrible night. A police report, a settlement, and silence. But instead, it became the beginning of a story neither of them was prepared for. What happens when guilt turns into devotion? And when help turns into love? This is not a story about a billionaire rescuing a woman. It's about the moment love stopped being an obligation and became a choice. And that choice would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue with Anaya and Vincent's journey, I need to pause and pour out my heart to the most incredible community a storyteller could ask for. To Rita Williams from Lake Providence, Sandra Hooper from Georgetown in South America, Caddy Trahan from Houston, Texas, and every single soul who shows up in our comment section, you have no idea what you mean to us. Your investment in every twist and turn, that's not just engagement, that's validation, that's love. You don't just read these stories, you feel them. You celebrate the victories, you rage at the villains, you cry at the heartbreaks. Some of you have been here since day one, and some of you just found us yesterday, but all of you make this worth it. Thank you for making us believe that what we do matters. Now, let's get back to our couple, because trust me, you're going to need tissues for what comes next. The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning Fifth Avenue into a river of brake lights and honking taxis. Anaya Richardson clutched her portfolio tighter against her chest, the waterproof case doing little to protect her from the cold that seeped through her vintage peacoat. She was late, catastrophically late, for the presentation that could change everything. Her small graphic design firm had exactly one chance to pitch to the Castellano group, and that chance was slipping away with every red light. She didn't see the SUV hydroplaning through the intersection. She only felt the impact. Sudden, violent, spinning her world into darkness. Vincent Castellano was supposed to be in Singapore. His driver was supposed to have the night off. But a canceled deal and a rare moment of wanting to drive himself had put him behind the wheel when the streetlight turned his windshield into a kaleidoscope of rain. He saw her too late. The emergency room became a blur of fluorescent lights and the steady beep of monitors. Vincent refused to leave, even as his assistant fielded increasingly frantic calls from board members. The woman, Anaya, her ID said, had no emergency contacts listed, no family in the city, just an address in Brooklyn and a portfolio of stunning design work scattered across the intersection. When she finally opened her eyes 3 days later, the first thing she saw was a stranger with dark circles under his blue eyes, expensive stubble, and a guilt so palpable she could feel it across the room. "I'm so sorry," were the first words Vincent Castellano ever spoke to her. The doctors delivered the news with clinical gentleness. Spinal trauma, months of rehabilitation, experimental surgery that insurance would fight every step of the way. Anaya's savings would evaporate. Her business would fold. Her dream of finally opening her own gallery would become another casualty of circumstance. Vincent heard the same news and made a decision that would entangle their lives forever. "I'll cover everything," he said, standing in the doorway of her hospital room on a gray December morning. "Medical bills, physical therapy, living expenses while you recover, all of it." Anaya's pride flared, bright and hot. "I don't need your guilt money." "It's not about guilt." He stepped closer and she noticed the way his hands trembled slightly. "It's about responsibility. I took your life from you that night. Let me help you get it back." She wanted to refuse. God, how she wanted to refuse. But the numbers on the medical bills were already astronomical, and the insurance company had started using words like pre-existing conditions and liability disputes. "Fine," she said finally, hating how her voice cracked. "But this doesn't make us friends. You're just paying what you owe." Vincent nodded, something unreadable flickering across his face. "Of course." He didn't tell her that he'd already called in every favor he had to get her the best neurosurgeon in the country. He didn't mention that he'd had his team delay the insurance disputes by burying them in paperwork. He definitely didn't mention that he'd personally collected every piece of her scattered portfolio from that intersection, staying until 3 a.m. in the rain to make sure nothing was lost. Some things Vincent had learned in his ruthless business career were better shown than said. Physical therapy was hell. Anaya pushed herself with a fierce determination that both impressed and terrified her doctors. Vincent was there for most of it, not hovering, but present, sitting in the corner of the rehabilitation center with his laptop, supposedly working. But she noticed how he looked up every time she struggled, every time she succeeded. "Don't you have a company to run?" she snapped one day, frustrated after failing to walk more than 10 steps without the parallel bars. "I have executives for that." He didn't look up from his screen. "Good ones. I pay them obscene amounts of money so I can be here." "Why?" The question burst out of her. "Why do you even care this much? You've paid your debt. Your lawyers have covered all the liability. You don't owe me your time." Vincent finally looked up, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. "Maybe I'm not here because I owe you. Maybe I'm here because I want to be." The air between them shifted. 3 months into her recovery, Anaya took her first unassisted steps. Vincent was in Tokyo for an unavoidable merger, but when she texted him a photo, just her feet, standing on her own, he called immediately, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm so proud of you," he said, and she could hear the smile in his words. "God, Anaya, you're incredible." "I'm just walking," she said, but her eyes were wet. "Normal people do this every day." "You're not normal people. You're extraordinary." She fell a little bit in love with him in that moment, though she wouldn't admit it for months. Spring came to New York like a promise. Anaya could walk again, though she tired easily and still used a cane on bad days. Vincent had set her up in an accessible apartment in Manhattan. "Just until you're fully recovered," he'd said, though they both knew she could never afford this place on her own. They fell into a rhythm. Coffee on Saturday mornings at the cafe near her physical therapy. Museums on Sunday afternoons where she taught him to see art not as investment pieces, but as windows into human souls. He took her to his favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurants, places that didn't care about his last name or his bank account. "You're different here," she observed one evening over dim sum in Chinatown. "Not the billionaire, just Vincent. Maybe I'm only Vincent when I'm with you." He reached across the table, hesitated, then took her hand. "Everyone else just sees Castellano Group. You see me?" She should have pulled away, should have reminded him that their relationship was built on an accident, on guilt and obligation. Instead, she turned her hand over and laced their fingers together. "I see you," she whispered. The kiss happened later that night, standing on her apartment balcony with the city lights spread out below them like scattered diamonds. It was soft and careful and tasted like possibility. "We shouldn't," Anaya murmured against his lips. "I know." Vincent pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against hers. "I know all the reasons this is complicated. I know I'm the one who hurt you. I know there's a power imbalance. I know—" She kissed him again, harder this time, cutting off his words. "I know all that too, but I also know that you're the first person who's ever looked at me like I'm precious, like I'm worth staying for." "You are," he said fiercely. "Anaya, you're worth everything." They kept the relationship quiet at first. Vincent's world was full of people who would question her motives, who would whisper gold digger and opportunist. Anaya's pride still bristled at being the woman Vincent Castellano hit with his car, the story that would follow them forever if they went public. But secrets have a way of surfacing. A tabloid photo, Vincent and Anaya kissing outside her physical therapy center. The headlines were brutal: "Billionaire's guilty conscience," and "Castellano pays off hit-and-run victim with romance." Anaya's phone exploded with messages. Old friends wanting to know if it was true. Reporters offering money for her story. Her mother calling from Atlanta, worried and confused. The worst was Vincent's ex-fiancée, Caroline, showing up at Anaya's apartment with a sympathetic smile that dripped poison. "I just wanted to warn you," Caroline said, perched on the edge of Anaya's couch like a predatory bird. Vincent has a pattern. He fixates on his problems until he solves them. Once you're fixed, once you don't need him anymore, he'll move on. That's what he does. After Caroline left, Anaya stood at her window and stared at the city. Her leg ached. It always did when she was stressed. She thought about the past 6 months, about how Vincent had inserted himself into every aspect of her recovery. How much of his attention was genuine affection, and how much was just him completing a project? When Vincent arrived that evening, he had a key now. He found her packing. "What are you doing?" "Going back to my life," Anaya said, not looking at him. "My real life. Not this fantasy you've built where you get to play savior and I get to play grateful victim." "That's not what this is." Vincent's voice was strained. "Anaya, I love you." She whirled on him. "Do you? Or do you love the project?" Caroline said. Caroline is bitter and vindictive, and she knows exactly which wounds to prod. He crossed the room, gently taking the sweater from her hands. "But she's not entirely wrong. I do try to solve things. I do try to fix things. It's how I'm wired. So this is just—" "Let me finish." Vincent cupped her face in his hands. "She's not wrong about my pattern, but she's wrong about you. You're not a problem to solve, Anaya. You're the first person who ever made me want to stop solving and just be. You challenge me. You see through my bullshit. You make me laugh. You make me want to be better, not because I'm fixing something, but because you're worth being better for." Tears streaked down her face. "How do I know this isn't just guilt? Because guilt would have let me write a check and walk away after the first week. This," he gestured between them, "this is me being selfish. This is me wanting something for myself instead of for the company or the family name. This is me choosing you every single day because my life is better with you in it." They went to couples therapy. It was Vincent's idea, surprisingly. He'd learned from his past mistakes that love wasn't enough without communication and honesty. Dr. Martinez helped them untangle the complicated knot of their beginning. Yes, Vincent had literally crashed into Anaya's life. Yes, there was an inherent power imbalance. Yes, Anaya sometimes felt like she owed him everything, and Vincent sometimes felt like he could never do enough. But underneath all of that was something real. Two people who made each other laugh, who challenged each other to be braver, who had found in the wreckage of an accident something neither of them had been looking for. "The accident brought you together," Dr. Martinez said during one session. "But it's your choice to stay together. Every day, you both choose this relationship. That's not guilt. That's love." Anaya was planning the launch of her gallery, her designs mixed with emerging artists she'd discovered when Caroline struck. Vincent came home at 2 a.m. looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Anaya woke to find him sitting on the edge of their bed, head in his hands. "What's wrong?" She sat up immediately, heart pounding. "Caroline was at my office today." His voice was rough. "She said she had information about a potential acquisition, so I met with her. I had Marcus there, my VP. The whole meeting was professional. But afterwards, she insisted on coming up to the penthouse to talk privately about old times. I was exhausted from the Tokyo flight, jet-lagged out of my mind. I had a drink, just one, but I felt wrong, dizzy. I remember her helping me to the couch and then nothing. I woke up 3 hours later, alone with my shirt half unbuttoned and her perfume everywhere." Anaya's blood ran cold. "She drugged you." "I think so." "And Anaya—" He finally looked at her, and she saw fear in his eyes. "She just sent me these." He handed her his phone. The photos made her stomach drop. Vincent on his penthouse couch, shirt open, eyes half closed. Caroline beside him, positioned to look like they were intimate, her hand on his chest, their faces close together. In one photo, she was kissing his cheek while he looked unconscious. The old Anaya, the one from 6 months ago, would have spiraled, would have seen confirmation of her deepest fears. But this Anaya had spent months in therapy, had learned to trust, had learned that love wasn't about never doubting. It was about choosing to believe when doubt crept in. "You came straight to me," she said quietly, "the second I saw them." Vincent's voice cracked. "Anaya, I swear to God, nothing happened. I would never—" "I know." She took his face in her hands. "I believe you. Now show me the message she sent with the photos." Vincent pulled up the text. "You have 48 hours to end things with her. Make it dignified. Tell her you're not ready for commitment, that the guilt is too much, whatever story you want. But break her heart gently and walk away. If you don't, these photos go to every gossip site in New York, and I'll make sure everyone knows you've been playing her from the start. Your choice, her dignity or her humiliation. See, Anaya read it twice, fury building in her chest. She really thinks she can manipulate you like this. What do we do? Vincent looked lost in a way she'd never seen. I can't let her hurt you. Maybe I should just... Don't you dare finish that sentence. Anaya stood up, pacing. Her leg ached, but she ignored it. We're not letting her win. We're going to set a trap. The Castellano Foundation Gala was the social event of the season. 500 guests, Manhattan's elite, and more cameras than a red carpet premiere. Caroline wouldn't miss it for the world. Vincent and Anaya spent the 2 days before the gala preparing. Marcus, Vincent's VP, confirmed that Caroline had been alone with Vincent's drink for several minutes during their meeting. Vincent's security team recovered footage showing Caroline entering and leaving the penthouse, and the timestamps matched Vincent's blackout period perfectly. Most importantly, they had her text message demanding he break up with Anaya. You sure about this? Vincent asked the night before the gala, holding Anaya close. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. Her reputation will be destroyed. She tried to destroy us, Anaya said firmly. And she violated you, Vincent. She drugged you and staged those photos. That's not just manipulation, that's assault. She deserves to face consequences. The gala was spectacular. Anaya wore a custom burgundy gown that hugged her curves, her natural hair styled in an elegant updo. Vincent couldn't take his eyes off her as they worked the room together, the perfect power couple. Caroline arrived fashionably late, dripping in diamonds, her smile sharp when she spotted them across the ballroom. Vincent, she purred, approaching them. And Anaya, how nice to see you both still together for now. Her eyes glittered with malice. Caroline, Vincent's voice was ice. I'm glad you could make it. I have something to share with you. He guided them to a private salon off the main ballroom, where Marcus and Vincent's head of security were waiting. Caroline's confidence faltered slightly. What is this? This is me calling your bluff, Vincent said. He pulled out his phone, queuing up a recording. You demanded I break up with Anaya within 4 to 8 hours, or you'd release fabricated photos to humiliate her. You drugged me in my own home and staged compromising pictures. I have no idea what your... Vincent played the recording. Caroline's voice filled the room. A conversation from earlier that day when she'd called to check in on his decision. They'd recorded everything. Have you done it yet, Vincent? Have you broken up with her? Why are you doing this, Caroline? Because you were mine first. Because she doesn't deserve you. Because I can. You have until tonight, or those photos go public and everyone will know you've been cheating on your little charity case. The color drained from Caroline's face. You can't use that. That's illegal. It's legal in New York to record conversations when one party consents, Marcus said calmly. And before you ask, we also have security footage of you drugging Vincent's drink and entering his penthouse without permission. We're not pressing charges, Anaya said, stepping forward. She'd practiced this moment, steeled herself for it. But we are making sure everyone in our circle knows exactly what you did. Every board member, every society friend, every person in that ballroom who thinks you're sophisticated and elegant, they're all going to know that you drugged someone and tried to blackmail them. Caroline's sophisticated mask cracked. You wouldn't dare. Vincent, you know what this will do to me. My family, my reputation. You should have thought about that before you violated me, Vincent said, his voice deadly calm. Before you tried to manipulate Anaya. Before you decided that your jealousy mattered more than basic human decency. I loved you. Caroline's voice broke, desperate now. We were supposed to get married. You loved the idea of me, Vincent corrected. The name, the money, the status. You never loved me. If you had, you would have been happy that I found someone who actually sees me as a person. Anaya placed a hand on Vincent's arm. We're done here. Caroline, you have 2 choices. Leave New York voluntarily, start fresh somewhere else, or stay and watch us make sure everyone knows what you did. Your reputation will be ash either way, but at least if you leave, you'll have a chance to rebuild somewhere new. Caroline looked between them, seeing no mercy, no hesitation. They were united, unbreakable. I hate you both, she whispered, tears streaking her makeup. No, Anaya said quietly. You hate that we're happy. There's a difference. Caroline fled the gala within the hour. By morning, whispers had already started circulating. Not the fabricated scandal Caroline had planned, but the truth about her desperation and manipulation. She left for Europe 2 days later. Anaya launched her gallery that fall, her designs mixed with emerging artists she'd discovered. Vincent helped with the business side, but insisted that creative decisions were entirely hers. Opening night was standing room only, and not because of Vincent's connections. The work spoke for itself. I'm so proud of you, Vincent whispered as they stood together, watching people admire her pieces. I'm proud of us, Anaya corrected, squeezing his hand. We survived her. We survived everything. Later that night, after the last guest had left and they were alone among her artwork, Vincent got down on one knee. I know the traditional story's supposed to be different, he said, pulling out a velvet box. Boy meets girl, they fall in love, he proposes. Our story started with me literally crashing into your life and nearly destroying it. But Anaya Richardson, you took that disaster and turned it into something beautiful. You've made me a better man, not because you needed saving, but because you showed me what real strength looks like. Will you marry me? Anaya pulled him to his feet, laughing and crying at once. You know what the best part is. I don't need you. I don't need your money or your name or your protection. I'm whole all by myself. Vincent's face fell slightly, but she cupped his cheek. I don't need you, she repeated, smiling. But I choose you anyway. Every single day I choose you. That's so much better than need. Yes, Vincent. Yes, I'll marry you. They married 2 years after the accident, in a small ceremony in Central Park. Anaya wore her grandmother's pearls and walked down the aisle without a cane, though Vincent had made sure there were seats along the way, just in case. His vows made her cry. You've taught me that strength isn't about being invulnerable. It's about falling down and getting back up. You've taught me that love isn't about saving someone. It's about standing beside them while they save themselves. You've taught me that the best things in life are the ones we don't plan for. I hit you with my car, and somehow you decided I was worth keeping. Her vows made him cry too. You've taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's courage. You've taught me that love can grow in the strangest soil. You've taught me that the worst day of my life led to the best thing that ever happened to me. You broke my spine, and somehow you gave me the strength to stand taller than I ever did before. Years later, when people asked how they met, they learned to laugh about it. He quite literally swept me off my feet, Anaya would say. She stopped me in my tracks, Vincent would add. But late at night, when the city was quiet and they were alone, Vincent would pull Anaya close and whisper, Thank you for giving me a second chance. And Anaya would kiss him softly and reply, Thank you for showing me that sometimes the collision is just the beginning of the journey. They had been broken by chance and healed by choice. And in the space between impact and recovery, they had found something neither expected. A love that was worth the wait, worth the pain, worth everything. Because the best love stories aren't about perfection. They're about two imperfect people who decide that together is better than apart, no matter how they got there.